Hey, y'all. Hey. So my name is Megan Holston-Alexander, and I'm a senior associate at Unusual Ventures, and I'm a fellow at Foundation Capital. And I am so excited to be here to talk to you about how to change the face of VC. So let me start with a question. What do you think a stereotypical venture capitalist looks like? Feel free to shout some things out. White male, middle-aged, perfect. So does he maybe look a little bit like this guy? Yes? So this is our hypothetical VC for the day. Let's call him John for now. But when you think about me as a venture capitalist, I want to get my truth out to you straight up front. I want to kind of just drop my bomb early so that there's no confusion. And you probably won't believe me when I tell you this, but here goes nothing. I'm black. I know, you could not tell by looking at me. You're surprised? But all jokes aside, I feel really lucky to be coming into venture capital at a time where I feel like the tide is changing. In 2008, there was a movie that came out called Slumdog Millionaire. And a poor boy from Mumbai with little to no formal education goes on the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and crushes it. It is because of his life experience, the things that he's done, and the people that he's talked to, that he's able to come out on top of a game show that had the odds stacked against him from the beginning. Now, I don't want to be super literal with this example because people have different backgrounds and different lifestyles, but the underlying assumption is still true. You don't always have to have a particular perfect background to be the ideal person for a job. Got it? Okay. So, when VCs are looking for a new company to invest in, they look for three things: market, product, and team. That's my VC voice. I'm working on it. They want to know, what is this company doing uniquely that the world is desperate for? If they always looked for the same type of companies, we'd never make any money. And we know that's not what it's about. But they want to know that this person is special. They want to know that this company is big and exciting, and that's how they would make an investment. And so I would argue that when we think about if a company and a founder has a great perspective and a great skill set and a great team, that we should consider them into the space of venture capital. So in place of market, product, and team, I think that we can look at skills, perspective, and good vibes as a way to bring someone in. So first, I think that venture capitalists could evaluate a candidate's perspective in the same way that they would evaluate a market. Is it new? Is it exciting? Is it big enough to be a game changer? Does this person have a breadth of experience that gives them an interesting insight? I was born and raised outside of the Montgomery city limits in the county or the country. Bonus points for anybody that can tell me what Montgomery is most known for. Anybody? Oh, perfect. Yes, my home is also the home of the civil rights movement. It is where Martin Luther King built his church, where Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus, and the end of the march from Selma. So the fight for change and equality and justice were basically in the water I drank growing up as a child. For most of elementary school, I went to a failing school. It was 95% Black and Latino, and less than 50% of students were reading at grade level. It wasn't until I got into the 3rd grade that my teacher, Ms. Lindman, changed the trajectory of my life forever. I had always been a high performer, but she encouraged my parents to apply to get me into the city's only magnet elementary school. So I went from a failing school to the best school in the city, 100% of students proficient in reading and math, and very, very white. And the key here is that what I know for sure is that in my old school, there were students who were equally as smart as me and probably exponentially smarter than I was in the class next door or down the hallway. But I got lucky. I had Miss Lindman. I had a teacher who believed in me and parents who wanted more. One thing that we like to say at Unusual Ventures is that we're looking for unusual companies and unusual founders because intelligence and innovation and creativity are equally distributed, but opportunity is not. So let's keep that in mind. Growing up in a city where unemployment is dangerously high and job opportunities are incredibly low, I was constantly surrounded by entrepreneurs, people who hustled to make ends meet. When there were no jobs, they created them. And this is where you find the extreme users on whom you can base amazing ventures. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. He tried his hand at owning restaurants. He owned a security company. He sold satellite dishes. But I think his real claim to fame was that he was then and is now still the undisputed king of fixing shit with no type of expertise. I mean, he had contraptions in the garage and pulleys and levers and lights that came on out of nowhere. He really taught me the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. This is my background. This is my perspective. It is where I grew up and the people that I was around that taught me to look beyond what's in front of me and think about how the world can change right before my eyes and what role I played in doing that. So when thinking about how to diversify a space like venture capital, perspective is key. And I assure you it comes from different life experiences and motivations and learning styles than maybe our VC John that we talked about. And there are so many other things that added to that perspective. I participated in beauty pageants. I joined the Quiz Bowl team, got my first master's, started a PhD, but quit that. But apparently that's okay because in Silicon Valley, you need a solid dropout story in order to be successful. So I'm well on my way to hitting it big. But so many of these things added to my perspective, but most of them aren't on my resume. So let's move on to skill set. I believe that venture capitalists can evaluate a candidate's skill set in the same way that they would a product. Our skill set is our product. Often we associate a company or a school with the things that we need. So ex-Googler or ex-Stanford, you name it. But I would argue that skill set is most important. What do we actually need this person to do? And often it could be the person that you least expect. Some of the most exciting deals in VC have come when we found a company or a product that we never even knew we needed. I started my master's degree in 2012. There were only 2 black girls in a class of about 70 people, and many classmates had degrees from more prestigious institutions. And while most of my classmates were amazing, sometimes we were treated like we simply weren't as smart or couldn't keep up. For example, in our advanced statistics class, my teacher would post the scores outside of his door, but kind of code them by ID so we didn't know who was who. Each test we had 2 tests. There was only 1 A each time, and maybe 1/100 each time, and maybe a few other A's. And as my classmates would sit in the student lounge and try to figure out who it was and theorize, was it you? And people would say, no, no. And by the end, the consensus was that somebody had to be lying. But nobody ever even thought to ask the 2 black girls, because for some reason, they didn't think it could be us. Those dummies. It was us, both times. And thank you. And so I say this and the funniest thing about it is that I learned statistics on YouTube. I didn't connect with my professor's learning style, so I had 2 options. Either I could fail or figure it out on my own. And so I did what I had to do. And so I asked, do we need a person to have a title, X this, X that? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. We need them to show that they're analytical, a critical thinker, that they're a fast learner and motivated. Because if all we ever look for is titles, that's all we'll ever catch. So finally, good vibes. I believe that venture capitalists can evaluate good vibes in the same way that they do a team. Do I think this person can make good decisions? Do I feel like I can trust them? Do we click? But this is where it can get a little dangerous when hiring. Oftentimes, we associate a click or a connection with similarities. And if someone has a different background than us, that click may not happen as easily. So I say, let's put some different qualities on this. Can this person be kind and still mean business? And better, can they connect with the entrepreneurs and win them over? Do they show care and compassion to the people that they're around? Now, I know VC is very, very competitive, but I do think that there's something to be said about emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills that helps companies run more efficiently and make them more welcoming. And further, if you have people on your team who are very different from each other, can they learn from each other? Are they open to influence? Stanford does a really great job of bringing people together from different backgrounds. So imagine me coming in with my social science research, philanthropy background, into a classroom with investment banker, private equity, hedge fund. We didn't really match, but I do think we learned a lot from each other, and both sides would say that. I came in very, hey guys, we don't need to compete, we're all in this together. There's room at the table for everyone. Meanwhile, they could be deciding what pizza to order, and they've got like veins popping out of their head, and their eyes are bulging. They were so intense. And so I like to think I helped them chill out a little bit. We're all in this together. But at the same time, and I probably saved them from an early stroke, but at the same time, they taught me something. They upped my competitive edge. They taught me that most of the time, there needs to be a winner, and you have to go big or go home. And I think it's the balance of the two that makes a great VC. So in the end, we just have to do it. 2% of venture capitalists are Black. And that number is rounded up. So really, it's like 1.5% to 1.9% of VCs are Black. And when you add woman to that, the number goes down even lower. A fraction of a percent of VCs are Black women. So there's a lot of work to be done in terms of getting more women and people of color into industries like business and finance and technology. But it only works if everyone at the table is doing their part in finding, hiring, grooming, training, and retaining diverse talent. And I'd like to draw a line in the sand right now and be super clear that intentionally hiring diverse talent is not a lowering of standards. It is not settling for less. It is rethinking how we frame skills and talent so that the playing field is level and progress can be made. So, thank you. So let's go back to our VC from the beginning, John. John is a real person. His name is John. He's a venture capitalist on the Midas list, and he's my boss. Now, John is not a savior. I didn't need to be saved, but he opened the door and he gave me the opportunity to do something that I was interested in and likely wouldn't have had the chance if he were only looking for one type of person. He saw my background as a Southern Black girl who went to a historically Black college, did pageants, started a PhD, dropped out, can't forget that part, who went on to teach college and do research and lead a nonprofit. He saw my skills and my perspective and my vibes and thought that they were important enough and different enough and contributed in a meaningful way to the work that he wanted to do. So John's doing his part, but it's on all of us. And now me, as a Black VC, it's on me too, to make sure that I'm being inclusive and imagining a world where this investment, the reward, the outcome for investing in this work will pay exponential multiples. Thank you.